Good morning. This is Todd Claussen, Territory Agronomist with DeKalb and Asgrow, bringing you Monday Morning Alert on behalf of Blomgren Seed in Boone, Iowa. We're just west of Ames today. It's April 23rd, 2012, about 10:30 in the morning, and just want to talk about a couple of things. We have corn in the ground. 10, maybe 12% of all the corn in Iowa is in the ground, so we've got a long way to go. I just want to bring to you a couple things. Is what's it take to get your corn seed after planting to get up and out of the ground, and I also want to talk about the impact of the weather, current weather, and then the weather that we've just had, the really warm March. So you put seed in the ground, you put corn seed in the ground, and it has to take on moisture. It has to imbibe water, about 30% of its weight in water, at which point it'll start to divide cells in the embryo, duplicate cells, and that embryo will start to respirate. Cumulatively, that's known as germination. And so the first thing that comes out of that seed is the radicle, or the root that will go downward. Here's your radicle. Now you can also see that the shoot has emerged or erupted out of the seed too, and the shoot's going to go upward. And then you can just start to see the two, and there's going to be three eventually, seminal roots that will feed this plant until it becomes photosynthetically active. So that takes 30% of its weight in water to begin this process. But in the countryside, there's also plants that are up and out of the ground. This particular plant's been in the ground since April 4th, Wednesday, April 4th. And it's up and it already has a full collar. I look at that and it's a little bit beat up because of the cold temperatures that we've had. But I think about this, how do I go from here, how do I get from this to this? What this takes is about 120 growing degree days or 120 heat units to get up and out of the ground. Today we're forecasted for 68 degrees. The low was 33 degrees, so a day like today is going to accumulate 9 heat units. So if I have a 70 degree high and a 50 degree low on any given day, that day will accumulate 10 heat units. So how many days will that take to get corn up and out of the ground? 12 to 14 days, somewhere in that time frame. Okay? So I think about this, I think about the March that we've had, the warmest March on record. Our mean temperature was 50.7 degrees here in Boone County, and that is the warmest on record. The last warmest was 1910. So with that in mind, we've been accumulating heat units since January 1st. To date, we're about 450 accumulated heat units from January 1st. I want to put this into perspective and relative to what is corn rootworm going to do. Well, corn rootworm takes about 700 heat units to reach 50% hatch at the point when you really start to see corn rootworm feeding. We're at 450 heat units today. Normally we're just over 100. So the heat unit accumulation is progressing the corn rootworm hatch closer and closer to today's date. So I think about that. I don't have a lot of acres yet planted, and so we still have 90% of the crop to put in. When that rootworm hatch and begin feeding, I might have a very small plant with a very immature root system that's going to be very susceptible to corn rootworm. So you might want to keep that in mind. Secondly, this morning, soil temperature did dip below 50 degrees in Boone County. You got to 48 or 49 degrees. But it's the first time it's gotten below 50 degrees for 35 days. We've had 35 days of 50 degree or warmer soil temperature. What does that mean to me? Above 50 degrees, nitrogen can start to convert into the nitrate form. The nitrate form of nitrogen is the big form that is taken up by the plant, but it's also very soluble, and it's in the soil solution, and it moves with water, so it can be taken into the plant, but it can also be moved downward in the soil profile as water moves downward and leaches downward through the soil. So that is a concern. We may end up, or could possibly end up, with the fertility zone down here and my root system way up here. Keep that in the back of your mind. Now, lastly, I want to talk about seed shock. I'm getting questions and getting calls about something that's being discussed in the country called seed shock. One that's a misnomer, and it should be referred to as imbibitional chilling. Imbibe, to take on, to absorb moisture in this seed. If I have the seed in the ground and it's 35 degree soil temperature and the soil solution is that cold also, that first water that this seed will take on is really cold, and it can make those cell membranes in the embryo very rigid, or it could rupture cell membranes. It could abort the radicle, it could abort the shoot, it could abort some seminal roots, it could actually kill the plant. But it can, if not killing the plant, it could make it very, very slow to emerge. That becomes an issue. Now, as I just mentioned, we've been above 50-degree soil temperature for 35 days. That's really not going to be an issue this year, and I wouldn't have a concern over it, and I could just put it out of my mind unless we get drastically cold over the next 10 days. But short-term forecast is not going to do that, and I don't foresee the soil temp to get below 50 over the next 2 weeks, and I think we're in the clear for that. Okay, so hey, it's Monday Morning Alert. It's April 23rd. It's time to go. I'm Todd Claussen, Territory Agronomist, Asgrow in DeKalb, bringing you Monday Morning Alert on behalf of Blomgren Seed, Boone, Iowa. Thank you.